The use case was very simple. Use it to spotlight users, use it to spotlight a playback machine, use it in conjunction with OBS. So when I wanted the playback to play to change scenes.
Excuse me for just a moment. Mike, I'm passing host to you. We are streaming.
Who is that strange voice? Did you hear a voice, Mike? I didn't hear that.
He came from above.
Okay.
He snuck in and snuck away. All right. Yeah, we're definitely up on YouTube. Oh.
Mike.
Okay. All right. All right. Welcome everyone this week to the Zoom Test Kitchen. David, our infamous leader, has left it to his minions, Ray and I, to start everybody off this week. And we'll give this a shot to figure out David's insights on, I believe, our thumbnail this week was actually related to, if I'm not mistaken, the CEO of Zoom making comments regarding the fact that he will have his digital self in more Zoom meetings going forward. And that is where he's seeing a lot of the AI related content to go. So that'll be kind of cool. So as David normally does, we'll do a walk around, or I guess not walk around because we're in the virtual world, but we'll do our rounds and say hi to everybody. And Ray, come on in and say hi to everybody.
Greetings, Mike, from Central Florida. All is a little toasty here, but it'll pass. It too will pass.
It too will pass. Very cool. Very cool. And there's my other cohort in crime from Canada. Frank, over to you, sir. How are you doing this week?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing good. Doing good. All right. And Roland, I know you're busy in Jamaica, so hello, Roland. Roland is here. He'll be popping in when he can. So yes, so getting back to the digital thumbnail that David had done, that was related to the CEO was actually in, I believe, Variety actually had interviewed the CEO of Zoom, and he was the one that actually came up with the terminology of having a digital self in Zoom meetings going forward, so that he and this digital self would be programmed to be like you and be able to answer like you within the meeting. So it was quite interesting. And I know Frank guaranteed you have comments about this on the security level. I have no doubt.
I'm the one who posted the article in Discord that's how David probably found out about it.
Okay.
So the concept of digital twins is pretty prevalent in VR and augmented reality environments. So basically, I think what he's saying is the next step is you would send a proxy of yourself to meetings, and if you could set up a set of conditions where the AI knew your preferences about certain kinds of topics or things, it could talk either to other people or to other proxies, and that would free up humanity not to go to so many meetings. And then you would get meeting summaries from the proxy. How far this can extend itself in the future, who knows? Could you set up, I guess maybe on the stock exchange and stuff, there's already AIs that say, oh, when the value gets to this, we'll sell or buy or do things. So is it an extension, that kind of concept, where if you can tell an AI how you want things to be done and that sort of thing, then maybe they can go and go to meetings for you, but how far away is that?
Right, right. I believe he was even talking about that it's definitely a few years away, but that is what he foresees in the next decade, within the next decade, I would say.
So that sounds great for the executive class. What does it mean for the rest of humanity, you know, as a broader concept? So if only AIs attended meetings, what would we be doing instead of going to those meetings? Would we be able to use that extra time for leisure, or would they find more work for us to do?
Very good. Yeah, very good point. So is that actually freeing us up from meetings that not necessarily we really should be involved with, and that we just need the Coles notes of, and I'll use the Canadian reference for Frank's sake on that one. And so basically the AI companion version of how you can actually get a meeting summary of the actual Zoom meeting would be, is that a lot which you can, let me say it this way. This is basically, would that really only what you would need, or is that what you would actually, again, you can get into pretty, knowing AI, if the AI is representing you as an avatar in a meeting and you program that avatar to act like you and to answer like you and to give your characteristics of yourself to the AI avatar that's in the meeting, then yeah, there could be, now it could get dangerous, because again, if the AI is answering questions for you, and that might be where the actual situation might come into play, where there might be a little more concern on, is AI really representing you properly or not, with your wishes or not within the meeting? Because you, again, in the exec world, as Frank was talking about too, I could see it being a little more dangerous, because if it's an executive boardroom meeting where they're making decisions about certain things, and all of a sudden your virtual or your digital twin shows up for this meeting, not realizing they were actually going to be doing decisions within the meeting, then the virtual twin might answer the wrong, opposite to what you actually would feel would be proper for the company. So
I think that it's a plea for headlines. I don't think it's everybody wants to hit the news today. And I think that's just a news grabber. Anything that's that far out can be science fiction today. And when will it be reality? I think most of these people are just going for headlines, in my opinion. Frank, do you think it's any more serious than that?
I think it could be realized, in short order. I just wonder, would you use it for things that have legal consequences? Like, how much do you trust these AIs to reflect your values and your decision making? Maybe over time you could train them, but I'm hearing myself a bit, so I don't know. I'm getting a bit of feedback there, but basically, I guess, like I said earlier, the stock market sort of does this already. They have computer algorithms that do trading and stuff. So if you can set up the right parameters, but I mean, meetings can wander around pretty far to lots of different topics. If all you want is a digital summary of a meeting so you don't have to go to the meeting, that's one thing. If you're authorizing the AI to make decisions on your behalf, that seems a little more interesting or dangerous, depending on your point of view.
In a legal situation where you're a board of directors member, where you have to be there, you clearly would have to be there. I don't think there's any potential where you can be represented by an avatar to vote your shares or any one of those decisions. I think that's stretching it too far.
yeah,
Students
I
would
agree
like
with
it,
that.
but students are already liking it, right? In my day, it was the Cliff Notes book instead of going to class. Now there's so many lectures that are recorded, and AI has broken them down. People are using that now to avoid meetings, but they're really just going for recap. some point, the student has to show up, don't they?
Yeah, Frank, you know that, right? The students will have to eventually show up and actually, depending on the
Well,
course.
I can tell you what's happening. I'm not going to say I'm an expert, but I can tell you some of the trends in education right now. Instructors are struggling with this topic because people are sending, anytime there's an online meeting, people are sending these AI bots to the meetings to scrape the notes so they don't have to show up. And a lot of instructors are trying to find ways either to uh, make it so that when they get evaluated or tested, you have to demonstrate mastery of the subject somehow. So people are bringing back the concept of in-person exams where you answer orally, which is, used to be a thing years and years and, hundreds of years ago, oral, sort of like a thesis defense or something, right? So, or they're starting to have components of the class where you have to attend. Some instructors don't like online courses because they feel it leads to less engagement. So it's a brand new world with new paradigms, right? So it's still evolving, I think.
Right, exactly. And Jonas actually makes a great comment about LLMS, which is what the current AI are really bad at making decisions. I don't know why anybody would trust it. I agree. At this particular point, he's right. There's still a lot to be worked out in the AI world. There's still a lot of legalities that need to be worked out in the AI world. And we'll say hi to Jonas, and we'll say hi to Robert, who's watching us on YouTube. And we'll also say hello. I think I saw Pete. Pete, you're here. Come say hi to everybody.
Pete's in the other room getting himself
there
out.
is. Oh, yeah, he's coming. All right.
Hi, everyone. How you doing?
Hey, Pete. Cool. All right. So, yeah, and the Cliff Notes reference that you made, Ray, was my Coles Notes reference up here in Canada, the Canadian reference for that. So,
well, and I graduated from college in the 60s, and we had to do oral exams back then, and we had to defend any paper we wrote orally in front of a committee. So that was pretty demanding, and they probably would not have settled for an avatar, although it would have been more interesting than me, but
I think that's pretty challenging now in Canada. I'm not going to speak to the US, but in Canada, first year class sizes are huge quite often. 400 or 500 students isn't uncommon. You wouldn't have time in the school year to do oral defenses.
no, it's
So you
the senior level.
It's usually for graduate courses where they have they've already, like, instead of undergrads, you're talking about grad courses where they might be going for a master's or a PhD or something. But I also know in suspected cases of plagiarism, some instructors are saying, I'd like to meet with you and I'd like to discuss your paper. And if you can't explain your paper, then you probably scraped it off the web somehow, right? Like using AI.
right.
Or whether
Right.
you use an AI or not, you can still plagiarize things out there. So,
Well, that's very true, but usually people who plagiarize don't have a deep understanding of the topic. So when you get asked questions about it, that's when you fall apart.
Pete, so how was your week this week? Anything new and exciting on the Zoom front?
back from Europe, and I guess the big news is Liminal Technologies is not supporting Windows for ZoomOSC anymore, or pretty soon they're not going to.
That is correct. Yeah, I did post that in the actual Discord server, so I hope everybody saw that in Discord. And if not, you can read up a little more about it. If you already are a ZoomOSC user or licensee, of course, you probably got the email like I did as well, and many of us that are on the panel today actually got the same email that I did, which was related to ZoomOSC for Windows will no longer be supported very, very soon. I know that has affected some of us. I know, Pete, you made comments about it in Discord. I know Roland's made comments to me about missing ZoomOSC, and quote unquote, Andy wants everybody on Mac. So that's sort of the scenario that, again, a lot of people are using the ZoomOSC functionality in Windows. So that will be going until, I believe, August 3rd, the beginning of August.
Mike, is that workaround by getting a per seat Zoom Events license that comes with OSC and what have you? Is that going to be restricted from the Windows units as well, or is it bundled and still available if you have the Zoom Events license?
Right. My understanding, and again, if Andy's watching us on YouTube today, hi Andy. My understanding is that yes, it would affect the Windows users of this as well, because again, there is still a local client that has to be installed for ZoomOSC to function. Roland, I don't know if you have a few seconds to talk about it or not. I know you have sessions, I believe. So I don't know if you've switched over to that or not. But that's my understanding of ZoomOSC for Windows. I don't myself have events or sessions, but I'm getting more into the weekly Zoom events information, so I'm getting more and more familiar with it, and we shall see if our company actually will go down either the at least sessions or possibly the Zoom events add-on.
Robert says that it will go down in infamy. Robert says it'll probably have to be something we remember annually. He said, remember when you guys used to use PCs?
Oh, you used to use PCs. Wow.
That's it.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Robert, you used to use PCs recently too. I know you're going to laugh on that one too. But yes. So that is that. Yes. So is there a workaround for ZoomOSC? Well, right now I'm on Windows, and what I've been doing is right now I've got us in, I'm just doing everything manually right now. So right now, again, of course, I'm in speaker mode. So I'll be as I'm currently host. So I think Robert was sending us happy faces there on YouTube. Thank you, Robert. So that was cool. I'm just trying to think of what else. I do want to talk about the ATEM release that came out this morning. Again, Australia time, so it would have been, taken into consideration. Officially, they classified it as today. So I will talk about that soon. Is there anything that popped up this week, Frank, that maybe you saw in the Zoom release notes? I didn't see any releases this week.
No,
So
nothing
it's
too
been pretty
exciting.
quiet.
There was some stuff for some of the other Zoom products that we normally don't talk about, but nothing for Zoom meetings, really. It's the beginning of the month. I'm not expecting much.
Yeah. Did they give you any hints of?
No, I
soon?
checked my sources for hints and I didn't see anything. There's no release notes for what's coming up either. Not that I could talk about them, but there aren't any. So
Right. Got
but
it.
it's also, I'm not surprised. It's summer. People take vacation. They just released a big, change with version 6.0. They're probably stomping out bugs right now, and they've probably got less people because of vacation. So maybe this is like a slower time for them. I don't know.
Right. Go ahead, Pete. Oh, you're on mute.
So back to ZoomOSC
Yes.
quickly. Is this some sort of? I read through it initially, but it almost sounded like it was some sort of agreement between Liminal and Zoom why they have to stop supporting Windows. Did any of you understand that at all?
Okay, well, I'll give you the basics of what I saw. And again, it's based on the actual email. And again, of course, Andy and the Liminal group would be a lot better to speak on this, but I will give you my quick opinion of it, which is basically, it looks like as of August 3rd, thanks, Robert, for making sure I'm keeping my dates right. As of August 3rd, the current version that is in ZoomOSC, so I believe it's a software development kit. I don't believe it's the API. I believe it's a software development kit. That current version will, I'll say it this way, expire, as in Zoom will no longer be utilizing it. So there'll be different functionality going forward as of August 3rd, and they will no longer be supporting that software development kit. So, and ZoomOSC's current version for Windows is using that version that will also be depreciated by Zoom. So that is where the Liminal and Zoom, because Liminal is using Zoom's SDK. So that SDK itself is, as of August 3rd, no longer being supported by Zoom, if I understand everything correctly. Pete, does that help?
Yeah, I guess so. It's still, I mean, I don't use ZoomOSC. I have off and on in the past. And my clients use Windows, but not OSC, just regular Zoom webinars. So we were looking at something like OSC, but I guess, you know, and they're not hot up on switching over to Macs right away. So
Right, understood. If they are a PC house,
they
Your
are,
client.
yeah. Pretty much
Yeah.
everyone I work with is a PC house right now.
right, yeah. Hasmuk. Hello, good evening, sir.
Hi, good evening. My Bluetooth connection may be dicey, so I apologize if I get dropped. I'm sorry to do this. I've just done my first day of 12 hours of medical production. And as per last week, I used breakout rooms for the first time. And what difficulty we had is that when my team tried to move people from the waiting room into a breakout room, the participant had to give permission, or they had to acknowledge that. I'm trying to understand this pre-assigned and assigned. That means move people assigned to the breakout room. I almost get a gut feeling that if you try and move somebody to a breakout room, they have to kind of acknowledge that. The other thing we found, sorry for two questions, if we move somebody into a tech check room, and then after tech check, we move them back into the main room, then from the main room, we can't get them back into the tech check room. So, meaning that it's probably asking for the participant's permission again.
Right, right. Interesting. Frank, do you have any, can you help us out with the, again, it sounds like this is a breakout room situation. Am I wrong, Frank?
Yeah, I'm just reading the support site to see if I can find anything where Hasmuk
Right.
I get
Yeah, you have
Hasmuk,
that.
tell us a little more where, because again, you know, you can assign people as they come in. They can be assigned, right?
Now,
So what's
explain
happening?
assign. Explain assign.
So
manually assigning or pre-assigning.
yeah,
Well, both.
Okay,
Explain
so
both.
manual assign is while the meeting is live,
Mm-hmm.
you create breakout rooms that may have been created prior to the meeting, or you can make them on the fly. You get a
Gotcha.
list of you make some breakout rooms, let's say breakout room 1 and 2. So now
Yes.
there's 2 rooms that you could populate. Then you go through the list of participants and you say, Mike's going to room 1, Ray's going to room 2, Frank's going to room 1. That's manually assigning. It's clicking on the screen while you're in the meeting.
Yeah. So that means that's in the breakout room dialog box, correct?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then
So you have all a list of all the users, and they'd probably be
why don't you do it,
listed.
Mike? Why don't you? I don't know if you have the ability. Can you share your
Yeah.
screen and do the
Yeah.
breakout room creation live while we're talking about it? I don't know if you have the same setup as
David, where he's
David,
routing.
if you can do that.
Yeah.
Or you might just be able to do it and we'll get some video inception, like inception video feedback. But
yeah, let me just see if I can do that. Go ahead. Keep talking.
When you go into the breakout room dialog box, the users are all unassigned.
That's right.
So and then you can click on them, and that's what manual assignment means.
Yeah, first you have to have somewhere to you have to have somewhere to assign them to. So first the rooms have to be created, and then you manually decide where everyone's going. Pre-assigning is you use a CSV, so you have to know who's showing up. They have to show up using the same email that they registered for the session or meeting or webinar. If they use some other email, then their username in Zoom is not going to be the same username on your spreadsheet, so it's not going to work. So that's something you have to tell your participants if you're planning on doing this with registration. Please show up to the meeting with the registration email, the same account. So assuming they do that, the spreadsheet you prepare before the meeting or webinar or session starts, then you can just basically activate the breakout rooms. And because you've already pre-assigned 7 users to room 1 and 3 users to room 2, the system does it for you.
Yeah. So it's dependent on the email rather than the Zoom username.
Yeah. So Zoom's unique identifier is your email, because I can come into the meeting and change my name to anything, right?
Sure. Got you. And that was part of the reason why we have lots of people with double barrel names and different names, and they keep renaming themselves differently, and we have no idea who's who.
One of the biggest problems I see for this is people sign up for a meeting 5 weeks in advance, and they have multiple email accounts and sometimes multiple Zoom accounts. So they register with account number 1, and then on the day of the event, they show up with account number 2, which breaks all your efforts that you've done to make pre-assigning, because they're not showing up with the proper credentials.
Right. Then there's an automated move. What does that mean?
So I don't know if Mike's able to do this. I mean, I could, if Ray, if you want to take a shot at it, go ahead.
We discussed this. You can you create the rooms, as Frank said, and then as people register, they can either sign up for a room or you can assign them at that time. That's the automatic process, and it goes in. But Robert, again, Jonas has decided to stop sending us text. He's going to join us and explain it. Robert says, Asmith, don't assign anyone, just move them.
No. That's the instinctive thing to do. But if you try and move them, do they have to consent to that move?
I don't know if that's in the
there's different settings. So you can allow participants to choose the room. You can allow participants to return to the main session at any time if you give them this ability.
Been through all of that.
Okay. All right. Well, I won't belabor it then.
No. No, sorry, Frank, not to cut it short. What I meant is, my core feeling is that when we say we're trying to move somebody and we can't move them, it almost sounds like it's awaiting the consent from the participant to be moved. Because sometimes, I remember way back, I had a message that host is moving you to a breakout room. Do you accept or don't you accept? I don't know if that is still in place.
I don't think so. I think the host runs the meeting and decides where you're going to be.
Okay.
I mean, I think there's different ways you can set up the options. Oh, someone's got their hand up. Mike.
Yeah.
Mr. Doito.
Talk to us, Jonas.
So, when you set up a breakout room, there's one setting. Of course, I only know the German wording. That's the third setting from the top that says something about move all assigned attendees into breakout rooms. If you click that one, what will happen as soon as you assign a person to a breakout room the first time, they will just be moved. There will be no, hey, the host would like you to join. It's like, boop, and you're there. The issue that you ran into with the second time is you can then move them back into the main room. All fine. But then
Yes.
you want to move them back and you see the grayish thing that says da assigned but not joined.
Right.
The problem
Correct.
is you can't make them join. What you need to
Right.
do is have a second room,
Yes.
assign them to that second room. It will
Correct.
show the gray thing there, and then you
Uh-huh.
can assign them back to the original room. If you do that fast enough,
Okay.
they will just end up in the correct room. But this is
Okay.
an issue that we often have. So what we do
Yes.
is for our production meetings, the main lobby is just a lobby. As soon as you get in, you get greeted, then moved into the tech check, and then moved into the green room. Because within breakout rooms, it's way easier for us to move. But the other thing that is important is that you always have like a meeting 1, meeting 2 room, something that is like nondescript that you can use for whatever,
Sure.
that you can
Sure.
use to assign people to and then move them to the breakout room. That is probably the issue that you have been running into.
So Jonas, the key is that German described option, correct?
That is a part of the solution, yes.
Okay.
That means
All right.
if you click that, people will be moved. And then the second key is to have 2 rooms where you can move
Yeah.
them to the other
Yeah.
one to
Yeah.
pull them out of
Yeah.
the main stage again.
Yeah. I sort of preempted this, so I had tech check room 1, tech check room 2, and I had a bunch of spare rooms in case I ran into the problem. I think because I did not choose that automatic move to a room, that's the reason why we couldn't get them into the room in the first instance.
Yeah, if you don't choose that, it will ask them to move.
Thank you so much. I need to hit the sack. Thank you so much. Thank you. Appreciate it.
No problem.
Thanks,
No problem.
Asma.
Thanks, Jonas.
And notice for
Thanks,
jumping.
Jonas.
Yes. It's nice to know you're listening and helping. Robert just says, put him in a room. That's the way to deal. But he also said to reach out to Robert on Discord, Hasmuth. He wants to chat with you about it a little bit. But that can come tomorrow. It's late in South Africa tonight. And I see the lights just went on in the kitchen. So
I can't have an excuse with Robert because he's almost on the same time zone as I am. So if he's up, then I have to stay up as well.
There you go, Robert. So let's see who's going to stay up the longest today during the Zoom test kitchen.
Thanks, guys. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, husband. Not a problem. Okay. So that was really cool. And Jonas, thank you for joining. Did you want to give us any updates about what you're up to lately to the group?
I don't know. I don't think there's anything Zoom specific right now. So I've been playing a lot with Zoom Rooms Pro AV the last couple days, and that has been really, really great. And yeah.
Okay. So is it meeting up to things that you will find useful for you going forward?
Oh yeah, totally. We have a small machine that is capable of pulling 4 people over SDI out on a Windows machine, easily orchestratable. Yeah, for now it seems to just work.
So you're bringing that into what right now, Jonas? Are you bringing that into just a NATEM of some sort?
Right now, yes. The good thing is the controller also helps you with pinning NDI, but this is mostly for our remote hits and hybrid events. where you want to bring in people. The great thing is we can ship this little box that has 4 leads on it with SDI to our on-site partner, and they can just get 4 leads, and boom, they already have all the feeds. So that is really useful. And then the other way around as well, if we need to uplink 4 isolated cameras, they can just plug them in, and I can route within Zoom Rooms Pro AV. You can select each of the input and route it to a virtual webcam within Zoom Rooms Pro AV. So you can send, yesterday we were sending 4 SDI signals up to Zoom through a singular Zoom room. Yeah.
So that is audio and video coming out of the same output, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, you
so-
can actually select if you want mixed audio, isolated audio, or no audio. And then you can use all the things that you could have used in the past as well. Like there's a Dante integration and all that. Yeah.
Very, very cool. So right now that's beta still, Jonas, or no?
Yes. So it's interesting. It is in the production client, but to enable it, it's like a feature flag. You need to reach out to your Zoom account manager, and they can put you on an internal list and enable it. Yeah.
Okay, so it is in the current Zoom Rooms for Windows client.
But it's still a beta, yes.
Right, but it kicks in the functionality of the Pro AV through a, I want to say, license key or variation of such.
Something like that, yeah. And what's also interesting is that you use a new controller for that. And what's also cool with that is the new controller, the Pro AV controller, is built on the SDK that they released for Zoom Room controllers. So now there's a Zoom Room controller SDK, which hasn't been there for a long time, but now it's there, and I think will be really good.
Very, very cool. And Robert is telling Hasmukh that he might be off the hook because he's driving at the moment. So that's kind of cool on YouTube. So there you go. So that's a continuing saga on that. So, okay. So I found out just before we actually came to the Zoom Test Kitchen that our friends at Blackmagic have decided to update all the firmware for the ATEM Mini Pro line machines that have, and the best way I can explain it is the machines that have encoders built into them. So that would be the ISO models, that would be the ATEM Mini Pro, but this would not be the ATEM Mini or the ATEM SDI that do not have built-in encoder capability. So the 3 biggest features that I saw quickly, and again, this was only within the last hour before going to the Zoom Test Kitchen, starting up with you guys today, was that 3 things. You can now control out of the USB port. It's not just program anymore. You can actually now control any source to go out the USB port. So now you could send multi-view, you could send a specific program or preview on the ATEM Mini Pro. Again, I haven't done that to my unit. I didn't have enough time to get that ready for ours, for my unit in the studio here. So I can't show you 9.5 as of yet, but that is the current version that did get released today. And the other big functionality is that if everybody that is using the encoder-based feeds out of the ATEM Mini Pros, if you're sending them to a YouTube, Facebook, etc., you can now use, and Jonas, you'll love this, SRT. So now SRT can now be encoded within the ATEM Mini Pro lines, as well as the extreme ISOs. And so basically any of the lines that have the encoder based into it, you now have the functionality of sending SRT And the third one that is big is now you can actually do, if you do have an event, for whatever reason, you need instant replay, the latest firmware now will allow an ATEM Mini Pro all the way up to now do instant replay in DaVinci Resolve. So that is the three biggest things that I noticed today. Jonas, what am I seeing at your end? Are you up to?
Yeah, so this is the current version on my demo ATEM. What is interesting is you can enable all these frame guides now as well. So for those that do 9x16 production, this might be interesting because you can do 9x16 and 16x9 frame guides. You can now per single box decide if you want frame guards. And you can also turn all borders on and off and even change the color. So that is one of the big things. And since you're seeing this, this is coming through USB right now. Let's see.
Yeah, so no longer does anybody have to loop out of the HDMI out back into an HDMI port if you want to actually see multi-view.
Exactly, yeah, there's a button, like you see, there's a bunch more settings in the multi-view you can do. What's also new is you can enable and disable the label per every single one, which is quite useful. You also see they have the updated coloring of multi-views, where now the label also gets red or green. And then, let's see. This one is also a really important one to be aware of. You can now disable the fade to black. So if you hit this, you no longer are able to fade to black on your ATEM. What's also important to know is here, webcam output. On the extreme and ISO line, you're able to choose anything. On the ATEM Mini Pro and ATEM Mini ISO, you can only choose multi-view, program, and preview. You can't choose the other ones. And yeah, SRT is really neat, but I'm really excited about the them actually giving us multi-view output over the USB. That's really helpful for some of our use cases. And for those of you that are using Mix Effect, for example, you can now plug that into your ATEM just directly into an iPad. And then you're automatically able to see that multi-view and select it as source in Mix Effect, and then you're able to cut in there. So that's one of the new things as well that you're able to do with Mix Effect. There we go. Just wanted to see if I can get a couple people into the multi-view.
Oh, is that Jonas? Is that you? That's you coming in?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
This way I can quickly assign a couple people as participants so the gallery doesn't look that empty. There we go. So yeah, it is useful. Yeah.
So just for everybody to know, and I know Jonas is going to mention this, he's actually using Zoom Room's Pro AV.
Yep.
To bring us all in.
Yeah, so this is normal Zoom Room using Zoom Room Pro AV. Then all of those are just going directly into the ATEM. Of course, now I can just cut around. Yeah, but you see now, you could use this to tell people, hey, you need to move a little to the left, to the right, or wherever, so that way you are centered. Yeah, overall a pretty good update, I would say. You can And this is also pretty cool that like you can just actually change the webcam output, and it's not like you need to enable or disable it. Can also send whatever you want there. Clean feed. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very cool. Very, very cool. Well, Jonas is here and still playing with the Zoom. Anything Pro AV that might be of interest? Or ATEM for that matter. Thank you, Jonas, for backing me up on that one, because I did hear about it just before I came, and it was like, I know the Zoom Test Kitchen community, we do have a lot of people that actually, I know myself, I'm using their A10 Mini Pro, so I know there's a lot of us out there that still use them. We're awful quiet today. Okay. So, all right. What can we talk about next?
I have a question.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Frank.
So yesterday I was in a Zoom meeting and I was screen sharing, and my participant and my chat box went away without me wanting it to go away, and I used dual monitors. I was not expecting that behavior. Have you seen that?
I have not.
As soon as I stopped the screen share, it went back to the way it was before I
The
screen shared.
chat box disappeared. Did it?
Yep.
Do you open it up in a separate window?
No, it's docked.
Okay.
Anyways, probably just a bug, but it's kind of annoying.
Again, Frank, just for my sake, you were on the latest client or
Yeah.
the
Yeah, I'm on the latest client on a Mac, but I like having, so I have dual monitors. So what I like to do is I like to screen share, but I like to keep an eye on the chat on one of the monitors, and then it goes away while you're screen sharing. So I can't, if someone's asking me a question in the chat about screen sharing, I won't see it till I stop screen sharing. So I find that undesirable.
Interesting.
Are you sharing the? You're not sharing the chat screen.
No,
You're
no,
Yeah.
just a
I didn't-
traditional screen share. You know. But anyways,
Was it
I
the
figure it's just a
same-
bug, but
Yeah, Frank, was it the same monitor as your chat was on or no? Or was it a specific program?
so monitor one has the gallery, the participants in the chat all docked. And then monitor two is where I look at the screen share. But on monitor one, the chat and the participant list went away until I stopped screen sharing.
Dan wants to know what you were screen sharing. I don't know that much too much detail.
A web browser tab, like page of stuff.
So it wasn't the actual full desktop, it was an actual app.
It was a desktop, but I dragged the the web browser tab to the second screen, and then I'm sharing the second screen.
Okay. Okay, so it was the actual desktop then.
Yeah, it's the desktop, but I don't think this is intentional. I think this is a bug. I can't see any reason they would want your participant list or your chat box to go away when you're screen sharing. Doesn't seem like a desired feature to me, so I think it's a bug.
I've experienced that, as Dan outlined on YouTube just now, that with PowerPoint, it takes over both monitors. But that's not your case in this case.
No, I know how to fix that issue with PowerPoint. You just go into the PowerPoint settings, you set up the show as a fixed window, and then that doesn't happen, at least on a Mac.
Right. Okay.
Nice having all the help from folks that
Yeah,
are watching.
thanks. Yeah, thanks.
In the YouTube land. Anybody else has any questions or comments? We welcome it. We brought in people from all over the world tonight.
Yeah, we got our German that even snuck in with us today.
Yeah, we're happy to see Jonas. And Hazmat volunteered the meters, so we know that we're putting out a good sound. And then he turned off the lights and left us.
Yeah, that's all right. So
watch the two fellows who invented and owned the eCam. Now Zoom is totally embedded in eCam, and so you don't even need to know you're even on Zoom. You can get it from eCam, and it was a pretty interesting demonstration. So that it's now completely tied in with Zoom, and so you don't even realize you're using Zoom, whether people are calling in or whether you're or what you're putting out.
Where did you watch this, Rick?
It was a YouTube.
Okay.
But I happened to catch it live for some reason, and they took a little while to get started. They're not production people, but like a lot of tech people, they don't do a very good job of their demo. But it was interesting, and clearly they have Zoom total support. And I was thinking, we've got an event coming up. We're going to do Infocom, and Guy's going to be walking around with Ivy to interview people around Infocom. That's typical, but we're also going to have interviews live from the booth. And I wanted to be able to do two separate recordings. And I was using OSC, but I can't do it on the PC. So I'm going to have to get moved over here to the Big Mac.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, again, you should be okay to do ZoomOSC until August, right? So if you did want to use it until, with Infocom being very soon, it won't be affecting you officially until August. But as Pete and Roland and many others are now doing, is they are doing their best to try to find that alternative. Jonas, in the Stream Deck world, I know not in the companion world because it needs ZoomOSC. In the Stream Deck world, is there not a Zoom plugin functionality?
There is, but it uses there's one that uses hotkeys. And then there technically is also an integration that you can do similar to the Shocks does, where you manipulate the mute state of a mic, and that gets translated into Zoom. So that's one of the ways that you could do it. But yeah, not much options right now. Andy Colucci mentioned in Office Hours when it came up that Universe Control might be a good Windows replacement for ZoomOSC, because they have a lot of APIs, they have a lot of scripting and all that. Technically they have OSC, so you can build your ZoomOSC in central control. But yeah, that is basically what I think you could do now. But we'll see what comes out.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Pete.
I believe with ZoomOSC and the Stream Deck, it's integrated through Companion, and you can, if you have a lot of Stream Deck plugins you're using anyway, there's a Companion plugin you can put in your Stream Deck to make that interface connection to OSC there somehow.
Right, correct. But again, you would have to use all the functionality, and Jonas, you can help me on this, to use the full functionality of ZoomOSC via Companion, you would have to be Pro versus Essentials.
So
yes,
you need to be Pro if you want to get people. So one of the big features for Pro is that you have the list output. So without Pro, you can't get people. You can still send most commands that you want, mute and unmute, but you don't get a list of people. That's the biggest problem. There's some software that works around it. And yes, but even with Companion, you would now need to use a Mac that hosts the ZoomOSC instance.
I believe part of it is with the OSC Pro, it will automatically bring in all the participants, whatever, to your Stream Deck, whereas the non-Pro you have to program that in Companion.
That sound right?
The way I understood it initially.
Because it almost sounds like Pete's confusing ISO and OSC a little bit there.
Maybe I don't know.
No. So
No?
you're right. OSC is what brings all the names onto the Stream Deck. Without OSC Pro, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
OSC requires a Pro license for you to get the names on your Stream Deck. But now you need a Pro license and a Mac PC, Mac system that you can run it on.
What's the least expensive Mac somebody can run?
Mac Mini.
Mac Mini?
Yeah.
After the Silicon one or an
Yeah,
M1?
probably. I would probably just get a used Mac Mini M1, a refurbed one.
Can the Macs run multiple screens like Windows?
Yes.
Of course.
Kinda. Up to 2. After that, you need to do weird workarounds.
Yeah.
At least the M1 has
That's a good
that
point.
limitation.
That's what I like about my Windows computers is everything has 3 monitors.
I have 4. Not to brag.
Not to brag. That's it, right? Not to brag.
I'm lame. But I came out of a world where I'd walk into the truck and the chief engineer would show me the blank wall of nothing but monitors, 30 some odd monitors. He said, here, draw what you want here. That's the world I came from. So many monitors is always welcome. It's really spoiling when you walk into a truck for the first time. I'd like the cameras here, odd numbers over here, and
Yep,
gets to
exactly.
your head after a while.
Yeah, absolutely. So Jonas, can you talk about the suggestion that Andy was talking about? What that software is? Universal Control. Tell us a little more about that.
So Universe Control is control software that comes from the integration space and the art-ish space, like big museums and all that. They are, interestingly enough, close to me locally here in Stuttgart. They've done a lot of exhibitions and facility control. They're not cheap. But that being said, I think they just, let me check that real quick. I think they just changed that universe. Whatever the lowest one is 3, I think. We changed that. In the past, you had to pay like $750 for that. But you look at that. Now it's a subscription. So there's Universe Entry. That's 27 euros a month. Then there's Universe Essential. That's $100 a month. And then there's Elite for $250 a month. Perpetual, you can get Essential for 1,850 euros and 4.5 grand for Elite. So yes, quite a step up, but you could probably do everything you want to do with Universe Entry. For the 30-ish bucks, they would allow you to build your own Stream Deck interfaces, your own web interfaces. For example, what Office Hours uses to run the show is Universe Control to build the UI, and then that is web control that is shared out. Yeah.
Using the Universe Control software. Now, is that
Exactly.
a client? So that would be a local client. Or
Yes,
is
so
it?
Universe
It's not in the cloud.
It's not in the cloud. So it's like ZoomISO OSC, a local client where you program everything, and then you would connect your Stream Deck or whatever software or hardware you want to control with it as well, and then do it that way. Yeah.
So
we had them on
it's
Office Hours a while ago, but yeah, they're still fueling that web interface.
right. So how different then? And this would probably be for a lot of people that are like myself that are more used to Companion. So Universe Control would be the next level up, right? Of functionality.
Kind
Or-
of, yeah. So Universe Control, you probably would need to. I haven't looked at the Zoom integration, honestly. but it's nodal based, so you can do no code, more advanced stuff. There's a lot of more advanced things you can do that like are really hard to do in Companion. That's like conditional, like something like if a user unmute, give them co-host, because everybody who is speaking should have co-host. Something like that. Or if a person raises their hand, make them allow local local recording, for example. So that's where it is good, and also like conditionals. But I don't know. It will be a big change from Companion over to it.
So it is a bit of a learning curve, is what you're telling me.
Oh yeah, for sure. They do have a mode where they can like cooperate with Companion. But yeah, their pricing hasn't been in a realm in the past where it made sense for us to go down that route. So I haven't worked with it in the last 2 years or so.
Right. And a lot of your productions that you're currently running right now are still companion based, right? Zoom.
Well, we don't use ZoomOSC at all in our production. We only have one where we did a chat bridge. We're probably going to use something like vMix Social now for that or similar. But we'll see. Yeah, but mostly our production is still based on custom Companion configs and sharing them out and Companion satellite and all that.
Right. So just for, I know usually we talk a lot more about the integration in the Mac software, but your experience doing the vMix integration with Zoom, you've been using that quite a bit?
We use it here and there. It seems to work fine for basic use cases. I know that Chad from Office Hours has some issues when it comes to more niche and advanced use cases. We use like 2-3 pins. We use it to feed a Zoom meeting automatically, and that works fine. What I really like is there's a screen share output that automatically pins the current screen share, which is something that Zoom Rooms right now, at least on the NDI side, can't do.
Right. Right. And again, too, with the vMix integration of Zoom, you could actually use the Zoom Room Pro AV in conjunction with it, right? So you could actually have them both logged in if you really needed to.
Yeah.
Do certain things, right? If you needed certain things done on the software side where vMix could be better off for you, then you can use that. Or now you've got the Zoom Rooms Pro AV side where it actually can come out to a video switcher.
Yeah, and Zoom Rooms Pro AV is for us mostly contribution and also hybrids. So what we often also do for hybrids is we have a local AV partner who just dealed like additional cameras, and we have our team welcoming people. And because what we find is what really suffers on hybrids is the onboarding of talent and speakers, and then they're nervous and all that. So what we do is we bring them through our normal lobby process, and we just tell the production, hey, this is the output you're gonna get, and we manage it all. So in the past, that was a little more difficult. Now we are literally just being like, hey, there's 4 SDI leads. They're numbered weirdly because it's a Blackmagic card. So plug in and we'll send you what you need. It's just a camera at this point.
Right. And again, that unit that you're sending them is encoder coming out, not decoder going there, because the Pro AV side is your side that's going into your switcher, right? Or are you sending the Zoom
I don't
Pro
have local. I'll never use local switches for anything that's important. So for us, it's just to get feeds and to distribute feeds is where we would use a computer with Zoom Rooms Pro AV.
So you're bringing them as feeds coming into Zoom using the Pro AV, where Andy's been showing a lot the other way, where it's been coming out.
Well, the cool thing is if you have 3 people there, is you get 3 ISO shots routed into your system. You can ingest those 3 feeds, send out a singular presenter feed, and then you can cut up a nice virtual show still. So you still have a lot of options there.
Right, right. Any questions from the group for Jonas about the way that he does his productions and such? We know Jonas is definitely doing in the cloud all the time, majority of the time, 98% of the time. Yeah, okay, that's cool. Any questions from YouTube? Of course, let us know in chat, and we'll relay them to Jonas and the gang here. If you have any thoughts or concerns related to Zoom and how you use it on productions, by all means, we're here to answer any questions and to potentially blow some stuff up if we need to. Okay.
I found something out I think it was last week, that I wasn't really aware of, mostly because I'm not on Windows as much as I should be. But on a Mac, when you go into the chat section of the Zoom interface, if you right click in the chat box, you get this thing called substitutions, which if you're a Mac user, there's system-wide substitutions you can do in the operating system. And somebody was complaining on the Zoom community forum that they couldn't do it, and I didn't realize they were on a Windows machine. So I started asking a few questions from some people at Zoom, and I guess Windows users don't have this. Do you know what I'm talking about?
What was that feature again?
Substitutions.
Substitution.
Here, I'll take a screenshot.
Okay. All right. So substitutions. So you're substituting what would be a use case, Frank?
For text strings where you want them to appear a certain way and they're not that way. It's, think spell check, but a little more powerful. Anyways, let me give you a screenshot here.
Yeah. Go right ahead.
I thought there might be some comparable system in Windows, but I was talking to, Ray, who comes here.
Yeah.
He said he didn't think there was a comparable system in Windows.
No, I don't think so.
So in my system preferences, I'll take another screenshot in a second. System settings. I think it's part of keyboard. Keyboard. Sorry, just bear with me. I know maybe it's not even an interesting topic.
No.
Keyboard preferences.
There we go. Yeah. So I'll just share what Frank is actually talking about here. So here's the actual.
Anyways, not finding it right off the bat, but yeah. So it's interesting. The reason this came up was somebody was doing computer code and trying to show the code in the chat, and their Windows machine kept changing, I think, dash to a single dash, and they were trying to override it and they couldn't. And on a Mac, it would be no problem to fix that, but I was trying to find a solution for Windows and I came up empty. But anyways, I thought maybe some of you might know about it, but it's kind of a weird little esoteric thing. It's not a big deal.
Right. Yeah, no, I haven't run into that myself. I do know that the other functionality I do see, but I don't see that one, right? On Windows. And that was you would actually right mouse click within chat, Frank, correct? To see that?
Yeah, right. So it's the way I understand it is part of our system architecture, like it's part of the operating system. So apps can take advantage of it if, whereas on Windows, I guess there's no global comparable thing.
Not specifically I don't think there's specifically that is in there. Jonas, you might know a little more on that.
No, I don't think there is. At least not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, I agree with that. Not that I'm aware with either. Okay. That's interesting. Yeah. If anybody has run into that in the YouTubers or online people watching us on YouTube, please let us know in chat and we'll relay that back to Frank if you've run into this or not. Okay. So Ray, do we know if David will be joining us at all today or?
He left a note that said, to whom it may concern. And that would be us.
Ray and I, yeah.
He went to the store for cigarettes and he never came back.
Right,
Yeah.
he didn't tell us.
Yeah, and he got lost on the way back. Yes, I know.
Yeah, but he had something that was going to keep him at least from the first hour. And unfortunately, I usually get to stay till 4:30, but on Friday nights, because there's family commitments, I've got to leave a little early. I feel bad about 1/8 of the brain trust, although I'm not that much, will be missing. But the folks that are on, we discovered Neil Fairmont, who is in Portugal. He's on watching on YouTube, and I'm sure there's other people that are watching live that want to contribute. I suggest you do. This is a really good time, and but sadly, I have to say goodbye and have a good show, guys. And if it gets too dragged on, just pull the plug, Mike. We don't want to bore the people on YouTube any longer than necessary.
You got it. Take care, Ray. Bye, Ray.
Jonas, you saved us today. Thanks for showing up in the flesh. Take it easy.
In the flesh from Germany. Excellent. Yes, thanks, Ray. So yes, so that's very cool. Again, yeah. So again, the big thing, those are the two big things that I noticed this week, obviously, was the ZoomOSC no longer being on Windows, which I did post on Discord. And of course, everybody on YouTube, please do check out our Discord. If you're not already involved in our Discord channel, by all means, sign up to it. The links are in our YouTube channel information. If not, you can reach out to one of us and we'll definitely get you on there, get you in there. And Tony Mobley is watching us on YouTube. Tony, greetings. Glad you could join us this week from YouTube. Hope you're feeling good. Hope you're feeling better. And you're getting back into the Zoom universe. I believe more with your church and conversations with Tony Mobley. We'll see. There's a new episode coming soon. Okay. So Frank, I guess at this particular point, you haven't run into anything exciting Zoom-wise this week other than the Mac versus Windows scenario, which I can imagine is a bit of a problem for you being the Zoom administrator.
I'm one. There's a couple of us, but yeah. No, it was just an interesting challenge. But no, I went through the Zoom release notes. Unless you're using some of their other tools that we don't really discuss that often. There isn't a lot happening this particular week yet. I mean, the week's not over, but it's almost over. But and then I looked at, the places I can look to see what's going to show up in the future, and there's nothing populated there either. So it just may be that development cycle for Zoom. Like I said, they put out Zoom 6.0. That's a big release. They may just be working on bugs right now and not new features so much, or the new features aren't ready, or how coding goes. It doesn't always go to a certain schedule, right?
Right.
Inspiration happens when it happens.
Yeah, and Jonas, you haven't heard anything exciting when it comes to the Zoom front in that regards, right?
No. I mean, let's have a look at the developer side. Sometimes there's some cool stuff there that they added to the SDKs. But yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is that I'm excited about is the Zoom Room connector.
Yeah, we have a subscription for that.
Very, very cool. Okay, so Roland has actually got a question for us. Roland, I know you're probably still busy unless you can ask it audio wise, but I'll ask it for you. What are the recommended Mac? What are the recommended Mac for Windows users? Well, recommended, I guess, Mac recommended for Windows users. There we go. Going to Mac for ZoomOSC. There we go. I think that's what Roland was talking about. Is there much differences, I guess, between the ZoomOSC version on Mac versus Windows? I have this
Not really.
feeling. No,
Not
but-
really. So the Mac client and the Windows client are pretty much at parity. It's when you get into iOS or Android, then the clients don't have feature parity with the desktop clients. And then if you get onto something like a Chromebook, you have even less parity. And then Linux is its own sort of issue. I don't think they get complete parity with the Windows and Mac desktop clients.
That's one thing. I don't know how much it has been discussed here. The Zoom web experience got a big update like a while ago. Like Zoom in the web is just now almost on par with Zoom locally. It's quite cool.
On the Zoom support site, I'll get the link for you if you want, but there's a table of the Zoom web client feature comparisons. It's got every client and it's in table format, and it shows you each client if it can do something or not. And on the left is the Windows and the Mac desktop client. Those are the most fully featured. And then as you go to the right, the features drop off. So I think Chromebook is the very last thing on the table. It has some of the least feature parity compared to the Windows and Mac desktop clients. But as far as the Windows and Mac clients, they're basically identical. There may be a few minor differences, but for the most part, their feature parity is equal.
Yeah, no problem, Roland. Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, doing too many things. Yeah, I hear you. And I'm really doing a lot of things now. That Ray is gone for the weekend now. So I'm thinking hoping to back. Oh, okay. All right, Tony. So Tony's letting us know, and I'll let the YouTube universe know that conversations with Tony Mobley sounds like they're coming back in July. So that's great news. All right. So conversations with Tony Mobley coming soon to his YouTube channel. So that's cool. Okay. Yeah, I was actually going to put up that Frank, did you find that client link? And I'll put it up and I'll share it. Unless you want to.
I'm just looking for it right now. Unless you have it.
Yeah, no, go right ahead.
I go to it quite often. I just I don't have it bookmarked.
course.
So I'll get it to you in a second.
Yeah, no problem.
Carry on.
James. Yes, join us, James. All right. So one of the regulars, James, you're joining us. Hello, James. How has the week been?
Oh, it's been okay. Wow, I didn't know that we could Jonas in this. Wow, this is impressive.
Isn't it? Yes. If you need some, ask Jonas while he's here. Oh. Did you get? I think James, if I remember correctly, you did have an outstanding Zoom issue that you were working through. Did that ever get resolved? Or no? I'm trying to remember.
What was it? Yeah, I think they probably fixed it to some degree. I mean, there was a scheduling thing,
right,
based on the
booking
time changes.
Right, booking like in the future.
Right. If you were booking when it changed from, like daylight savings time or Central Standard Time and related to actually using Zoom Chrome extension as opposed to the Google plugin.
Okay. All right. So
And
that
so
was
the plugin, it would just work. Although most other times the plugin seems to unsync itself all the time. Have you
right.
noticed that, Frank?
Yeah, there's lots of reports of all of those add-ons or plugins, whatever you want to call them, having different various issues because Zoom, provides the SDK and the APIs, but it's up to the different companies who leverage them to keep those up to date and functioning correctly. So a lot of them have their own little individual flaws.
Right. So it sounds like to me that Zoom is trying to do their best to keep up with Google because again, they're using their SDKs and APIs as well. So it might be that maybe Google updated something which all of a sudden kicked out of the sync between
Is
the
that
two.
a beer? Are you having a beer, a German beer without me? I am very jealous.
Of course.
Well,
Ich
it's
habe
past
ein
5.
Bier, Herr Ober.
It's past 5 p.m. someplace in the world,
That's
and always
right.
in Germany.
Zoom Test Kitchen after hours. Must be 19 to participate.
Not yet. Yeah, we haven't gotten to that world yet, but we may soon. YouTube. That we're just letting everybody know. But yeah, so James, all has been good. Nothing been broken. Oh, we haven't seen. Have we seen you since it went to version 6 for the rest of
No.
your? Okay, how did that go?
I don't know. Is there anything that I should know about?
Oh no, I'm just wondering how the deployment went from your users going from 5 to 6. Was there any issues that you ran into or anything?
I didn't see anything big. Actually, I don't even know what I'm running. Did I update myself yet?
We forced more than 30,000 people to move to Zoom 6.0, and it's been pretty good.
Okay.
On the Zoom community forum, I would say that Zoom 6.0 and the derivatives or updates after that caught a lot of hate, more than I've seen probably for a lot of other feature releases. And some of the reasons I saw it taking flack, I thought were stupid reasons, like why am I paying for this new Zoom Workplace? I didn't ask for Zoom Workplace. They didn't understand that it's
Oh.
mostly a rebranding exercise and it's Zoom 6.0. That was one of the things, and a lot of people were afraid they were paying extra because they thought I didn't ask for this new tool, and they didn't understand it was the same tool. But there's also been some hate about things like the menu flexibility, where you can put things in the more in and out of the tool dock and different things. And I think it's just because a lot of people really don't know how Zoom works. They use it, but they don't really, they use a couple of times a week. They fumble around and they don't spend the time that the people who would come to the Zoom Test Kitchen do, testing it, exploring it, keeping up to date. So maybe you have a Zoom meeting once every 2 months and it looks different. And I hate different. I hate when software changes. People don't always appreciate change, but
Yeah. No, I hear you, Frank. So basically, the scenario ended up being for you more of a comfort level that disturbed people. The name change,
in the Zoom community
button.
forum, where I look after Zoom, we have had very little complaints about it.
Ah, okay, good. Okay, so it was more in the community of just people just because it looks different and it's like, oh my goodness, I don't know where everything is anymore.
I mean, there are some legitimate complaints. For screen sharing and some other things, there's been some weirdness. I think they're bugs, and I think they'll get improved as Zoom patches things. But some people don't appreciate their workflow being disrupted, and it's valid. Maybe Zoom needs to do a different or better job of validating their updates before they release them. The other complaint I've seen quite a bit, and I think it is well-founded, is Zoom used to be really good about keeping their support site and release notes and all the support documentation in their knowledge base up to date. And apparently there's a backlog at Zoom on keeping their documentation up to date. And I think that it's incumbent upon them to spend the money and hire the people to keep these not the release notes, but the actual support documents up to date, because those are sort of primary sources for information when you're trying to either find out how a new feature works or try to troubleshoot or whatever. And Zoom is such a big tool and it does so many things and there's a lot of nuances. Without good support documentation, it makes it really hard for people to have confidence in any platform, right?
Absolutely. I agree 100% with that. And that is also something that Zoom also does too, is that they will always point you to their knowledge base to make sure that, ask there first before you send them something in support. So
I'm sure it's a huge undertaking and it probably costs them a lot of money, but I think it's a responsibility they have to shoulder. Without decent documentation, it's really hard to understand any tool, especially a complex tool like Zoom.
I think the biggest thing that's probably going to happen is they're going to start using AI for it.
Yeah, they do already, and I hear a lot of complaints. Luckily, the people that I champion, we have Zoom support, professional Zoom support. We're allowed to talk to a person by phone. We can put in tickets. We don't have to use the AI. But for people who have like just a pro account and they don't have a business account or an enterprise account, the AI leads them in circles, especially when you don't know the vocabulary. If you aren't using the correct phrases with the AI, you can spend a lot of time trying to get to the answer you're looking for.
Yeah, I agree with that entirely. And I've heard complaints about it myself regarding the AI functionality when it comes to that. And I don't disagree with that, but yeah.
And I don't think it's just Zoom. I think it's industry wide. A lot of high tech companies are, supporting end users is expensive, and AI is a way to cut costs. And one of the terms I'm familiar with in customer support is deflection. If you know what that is, it's trying to divert you from talking to a customer support agent. That way the company can have less support agents and spend less money on support. So every time the AI answers a question successfully, it deflects from you having to talk to a live human, and that results in cost savings for the companies. And there's there's a whole industry wrapped around customer support and success, and they have a whole set of their own terminology about this, the KPIs they measure, and they have special names for all that stuff. But it's it's a change, I think, from 10 years ago where a lot of companies were more hands-on with their support. But if you don't know what you're looking for, AI is going to sometimes send you in a circle.
Unless it deflects you right off not using that platform, whatever it is.
That's very true. And one place I think Zoom could do a better job, they're very good to their enterprise customers and even their business customers. But if you're a pro user, it's very hard to get Zoom support. You're kind of on your own. If you can go to the community forum or come to something like Zoom Test Kitchen, but you're gonna have to read, which is why I really think it's important for Zoom to keep their support documentation up to date.
Or provide us t-shirts so that like more people come here, and then we'll have our Zoom shirts on, and then we'll be able to help them. Question on, so language. Oh, Roland's got a question.
Yeah. Go ahead. Finish your thought, James. Go ahead. Then we'll get to Roland's question.
The whole language support of, kind of automated translations, and then, someone sets it to German and then it's German for everyone else. Right. So I don't think the Zoom language automated translations is really kind of working in a way that I would say works well. I mean, like Google Meet works really good.
Right. Yeah. We actually, a few weeks ago, James, we actually did that test on the Zoom Test Kitchen.
Yeah.
And it was, I believe it was your, not to be confusing with you, James. It was our other panelist that will show up on James, and he's James as well. I believe his name is Jason. Jason is his name. And Jason was actually running into that problem where he was concerned because he had a client that wanted to be able to do 3 different languages, but only wanted the closed captioning to be in 3 different languages. But what he was doing when he was testing was that when the last person would actually ask the closed captioning, it would take that meeting would then take over as that language.
Right.
One thing you can do, the host of the meeting, when they allow closed captioning, is they can lock the captioning language so that end users can't change it. But that's not exactly what that person wants. They want each person to be able to get an individual language that they want, right?
Right. So the workaround that we actually told Jason to do was to actually, unfortunately, was basically have one main feed coming in that he broke into 3 different meetings, so that he would have, non-closed caption, and then he would have the other 2 meetings with the closed captioning on, but still have the English audio.
So I agree. I think that's an important feature. I mean, if we had a meeting with 100 people, 99 people wanted German, 1 person wanted English, then I would suggest locking the language. That's still a disservice to the 1 person who wants their language, but yeah.
Right.
But if I understand what you're saying, though, is that you would kind of like the way that some people have kind of created, with breakout rooms or different kinds of larger kinds of things, is that you have these multiple meetings and you send all your audio to these multiple meetings. And then you can have 1 meeting that does German closed captions and 1 meeting that does French closed captions. And, people can choose then, like to go to those links.
Right.
Not in breakout rooms, though. I don't think that would
No,
work.
no. I mean,
separate meetings, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right. I'm saying like you could use a breakout room as a way of kind of that screen scraping stuff that people do. And
Do breakout rooms even support captions?
no, I don't think so. Do
Yeah,
they?
which I don't think they do. At least the last time I looked, I don't think they did. And that's a huge problem too for people with disabilities.
Mhm.
So how do you participate in breakout rooms if there's no closed captions in the breakout rooms?
Yeah. And James, the other thing that we did notice too is that when we were doing the testing with Jason, is if we changed it here in Zoom as well, on YouTube would change. So right now we're embedded within Zoom's. Again, we're hard embedded because Zoom's embedding it within and sending it to YouTube. That would also change there too. So whoever changed it last within our meeting here, it would actually change to that, because all of a sudden we had again, if Robert is still with us, he actually changed it to Poland when we were doing the testing, and the thing on YouTube turned to Polish. So again, not only did it change within the Zoom meeting, it actually sent out the RTMP feed to Zoom with that last change of what that one is. So again, Jason was also concerned about that too. So yeah, that's not fixed to my understanding. I haven't tried it since we did the test with Jason a few weeks ago.
So one of the problems with Zoom is their language sometimes is highly confusing because they reuse words for a lot of things. So Zoom has this thing called translated captions, which is different than automated captions, which is different than interpretation. They have all of these sort of features that all sort of cross paths with each other or have related functionality. And I seem to recall at one point, Zoom's documentation said that each person could have translated captions in automated translated captions in the language of their choice.
I think that's an additional feature you need to pay for.
It's an add-on.
Yeah.
So for a standard license, you wouldn't get that unless you bought the add-on.
That's my understanding.
Yeah.
Oh, so there's 1 payment just to get a translated audio, and then there's another feature that says each person gets translated audio.
Individually
Captions. We're
captions.
talking about captions, not
Captions,
audio. Yeah. Yet.
Yeah, not audio, but
Yeah.
is there a way to grab the live transcription and feed it
Yes.
into something and then have that translated, and then somehow you get it sent back into this meeting like a video window that's just showing the translated German or translated French?
Funny you would say that. ZoomOSC just added that. So
Did
if
they?
you're on a Mac, there's now caption output, and you can subscribe to that. So now you get all the OSC messages of the closed captions, and then you can do whatever the heck you want to do with them.
And I don't know, I guess I'm a little confused in terms of how ZoomOSC is now kind of somewhat embedded into the Zoom client.
It's not.
Okay.
Right. And James, before you joined, this week, as a matter of fact, I think that was yesterday, Andy and everybody at Liminal are no longer supporting ZoomOSC as of August
In Windows.
in Windows.
Yeah, and I saw that message, and so that's why I was thinking, like, is it because it's been more integrated into the Zoom regular, just kind of well, I guess I'm thinking of the Zoom events license, right? The Zoom events has those kind of features.
And you're
set.
probably also touching too, right?
Yeah,
Because again, yeah, Zoom events is Zoom sessions is a baby Zoom events. Basically, that's the easiest way that I can explain it to you. It's without it's missing a lot of the bells and whistles, but yes, so you would need at least a minimum for our viewers and our people on YouTube for using the ZoomOSC, ZoomISO functionality, Zoom Tile, when that also gets released. That will all be, you'll have to have at least a hub. Oh, John, what is that word? Hub set up, and that is a Zoom sessions license that you'd have to have at least. And that, go ahead, James.
do you think we would get a word out bee sometime in the future? You know, like some developer thinking about some way of having a word translation kind of thing. I think that would be.
That's a whole can of worms I don't want to open at all. Just saying. Because the problem is right now you would even need to build a ZoomOSC replacement, right? And that might already be too much work.
James, I think that was it. Was you're asking Byte Hive there to do something?
No. I wasn't trying to. I was just putting that out in the ether and just seeing if. But you know, because I was looking at what is it, the Ecamm live, right?
Yes.
You guys did a bunch of Ecamm live last week, and I
Yep.
didn't watch all of it, but that was pretty cool. But you know, there's things where it can grab, you know, that seems like it can grab the comments and things that are happening in Zoom. So can Ecamm itself grab the translated live captions?
Jonas, that would be an SDK question more than anything, and I don't know.
I mean,
that
the SDK can. It's the question if they implemented it.
right. And for James's sake, James, you're PC, correct? For the most,
I always try to be politically correct, but no, not really. But I tend to use Macs. You know, I'm not a big.
okay. All right. So yeah, no, I was gonna ask Jonas if if vMix with the integration has that capability of bringing the comments in or the caption in. I don't think so.
I don't think the captions.
Comments I know for sure from Zoom chat. can be.
Zoom does it. I mean, I was just looking at the requirements for this. They've changed it a bit. So there's Zoom Workplace for Business Plus. There's a plus. That gets it without an add-on. There's Zoom Workplace Enterprise Plus, which gets it as a built-in feature. Or you have to buy the translated captions add-on. But I mean, we've had third-party captioning in Zoom for a long, long time. I've used Otter and other companies and not used Zoom's captions. And I'm sure since you can get the caption, you can get third-party captions. I'm sure you could get third-party translated captions. The APIs all are there for that to be possible.
Well, our one problem is we don't do any like third-party integrations.
We do them if they pass security and privacy assessment.
So,
which isn't like something you're going to get done in a week. Sometimes it takes months before you can do that, right? But we had a use case for people with disabilities who needed better Zoom's captioning has come a long way in the last 3 or 4 years too, right? Like it's gotten a lot better.
Right. And James, just for our sake and for the YouTube audience, you're using it to stay within Zoom, correct? You're not using it to do you're more concerned about the RTMP feed being sent to like YouTube or such, having captions.
Right. No, I mean the Zoom feed could go to YouTube. It's just, Wordly or other, actually ZoomOSC or ZoomISO. We can't use them on our Zoom. We don't allow those integrations, so we can't use those. So too bad we won't be able to use.
Can I screen share?
Yeah, go ahead, Frank.
And my chat and my participants list went away. So here's the page for the translated captions if you want to buy it as an add-on. So, it's not cheap. I mean, it's $6.30 a month per user. So you could buy the add-ons for the users who definitely need it, or you'd have to upgrade your account to Enterprise Plus or Business Plus. So those are basically your options right now, right?
Right. And just for everybody watching us on YouTube, yes, those are Canadian dollars that Frank is showing.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm in the Canadian. It's probably a little cheaper in freedom dollars, but
yeah,
there's quite a few languages. I mean, there's not every language, so here, you can look at this. I put the links in the chat. I mean, I'll scroll slowly, but there's a lot of languages, but there's not every language. Quite often I see people saying, how come my language isn't in there? Well, I think every year they add more, or every couple of months they add some more, but
right. Now, Frank, too, are they not using a third-party service for this functionality?
What they do behind the scenes, I can't tell you. They may have proprietary business relationships, but I'm not privy to how they do the magic, if they're farming it out to a subcontractor or if it's all in-house. I don't know.
Right.
I'm sure if you really needed to know, though, Zoom's pretty upfront about those sort of things, because for a lot of companies, there's privacy and security things that have to be revealed before you sign a contract, and they're pretty good about telling you about those sort of things. And is the data retained, or is it purged once it's you have to look into that. I am not alert.
Right.
And do you think the Zoom's AI stuff for summarizing meetings and stuff like that, since that's going to be text, that could easily be translated then once it processes?
Oh yeah, once text is, once you've got something in text format, you can do anything to it, right?
Right.
It's the live in the meeting thing that's important, I think. And
yeah, and James, take into consideration too, again, those closed captioning systems have to understand all the different languages, right? So it's not just English that they're understanding, right? They have to understand all those other languages, then bring them into closed captioning. Then if it's in that native language, then you're translating that language to English, let's say. as an
But
example.
what I would say, James, is if you have like, let's say, I don't know what you do for a living. Let's say you work at a company or a school or something where there's one particular user who's having a lot of international business meetings, then $6 or $7 or whatever it is a month for you could buy one license for that. Like you don't have to buy it for the whole corporation. You can say, I'm giving this ability to one user in user management in the Zoom admin panel. You don't have to buy it for the whole and for 500 employees. You could buy it for one employee.
Right.
Or you could say to your end users, we're going to do a chargeback. Like if you want this, fill out this form. Just know we're going to charge your department every month for it for as many people as you sign up for it. There's, however you do your internal billing is your thing. But you don't have to buy it for, let's say you've got 10,000 licenses. You don't have to buy it for all 10,000 licenses. If there's only 3 people in the corporation who need it, you could buy 3 of these monthly add-ons. And, that might be a way to go about it.
And I'm sure that you do have some sort of stats, James, that you could probably cross-reference with that, knowing that, as an example in Frank's case where he's at the school, obviously if that student's language is not native English, it would probably be in Frank's, best interest to actually get this license for that.
No, in my circumstance, like our school has an official language of instruction. And I've actually had the opposite. We have language courses where the instructors don't want this because they want the students to learn the language. They don't want them seeing the system translating it or showing it for them. And you can turn it off, right? But
yeah, okay. No, that's interesting. That's a different perspective to this too. James, what do you think?
I didn't even think about this, but for Canadians, do they have to have like do French captions have to be available?
it depends on what scenario you're talking about. Like for a school, the school will have its internal policies about whether it's an English or a bilingual school. If it's or just a French school, if it's primarily one language of instruction, then they don't necessarily have to do that. But if you're having like a public event or something, then you may have different requirements.
Right. And then this is where the sign language and everything else comes into play as well, too, James.
Right. And certainly, I can see at a certain, level of event, you actually have a live, you can have live translations, right? So
correct.
You have someone
similar,
reading the French,
similar to what
you go to that and you hear French at 80% and whatever they're speaking, if they're speaking English at 20 or vice versa, whatever way, right?
correct, yeah. And again, this is very much what our buddy Robert does all the time, which is that.
Yeah, you should reach out to Robert. He could probably give you some good ideas. But I mean, if it was me, what I would do is I would buy 1 month of translated captions for one user. So it's a $7 investment. See if it meets your needs. If they work, why go outside of Zoom as Zoom already has the ability to do it? And if it does work well enough for your use case, then the people who require it say, hey, we're going to charge you a fee, or only special people are going to get these licenses, these monthly add-ons, not the whole company, because not everyone needs it. And that way you don't have to spend as much, right?
Right. So you could have like a special events user and, and I don't mean Zoom events. I just mean, that's one thing I don't like about Zoom is like you have these like terms of like Zoom rooms and, then there's a personal room, right?
Yeah.
So if it's a personal room, then any Zoom thing is a Zoom room. And so then people get confused about like, what is a Zoom room? If that makes
It's
sense.
kind of like Kleenex, it's facial tissue, but everyone uses the word Kleenex, and Zoom kind of went in and swooped in and took all these common terms that people use and kind of made them Zoom words where really they should have more broader applicability, right?
Right, because this is a Zoom session, right? In some
But-
way, but it's not.
But technically, it's a Zoom meeting.
Right.
A session is something else, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
See, yeah. Where to them, a Zoom session is a baby event.
But I mean, for end users who don't pay any attention to any of this, I was in a webinar, I was in a video conference, I was in a meeting, I was in a session with my friends. Like it's just English words or whatever, you know, so they're not even aware that they're saying it incorrectly in Zoom parlance.
Right. So what do you think, James? Would that suit your needs for those specific users? Well, or are you thinking, I think where you're going with this is that you wanted to have, in similar to like Jason's scenario where you wanted to maybe just have one specific email address, AKA Zoom user.
That's a violation of your Zoom terms of use. You're not allowed to share licenses.
Oh, okay.
You're not supposed to have generic users.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
But what you can do is you can buy an add-on even for a year instead of monthly. And if somebody needs the add-on today, you give them the add-on in user management. And then when they're done using the add-on, you can take it away and give it to another person because only one person's using the add-on at a time. It's not like 7 people are sharing the add-on.
Okay. So again.
So an example is I buy large meetings quite often. So
Right.
our license allows us to have 300 person capacity Zoom meetings, but sometimes people need larger meetings than that. They might be having a special event or I don't know, whatever, right? An open public thing, and they might need 800 people. So we'll buy a Zoom add-on for large meeting. Large meeting pumps you up to 1,000 people. You can buy it for a month or you can buy it for a year. So, like you can buy it every month or you can buy it yearly and save some money. But if you don't need it for the whole year, you could buy it for that 1 month. Say, okay, that was, I accomplished my mission. And then the next time we need it, we'll buy another add-on. But at the same time, if you buy it for a month and user A needs it for 3 days, you assign that license, that add-on to that user, to their account. If they say, okay, the week of whatever I was doing special events is over, you can take that license, that add-on license away. But now it's just sitting there being unused. And if someone said, I need that, you say, okay, how many days do you need it for? You can assign it to their account for those amount of days. So you can ration it that way.
Interesting. James, what do you think?
I was distracted.
We do that with large meetings. We buy, we have several large meeting license add-on licenses. And quite often someone will need one for an event. We'll give them the add-on, add it to their account. When their event's over, we take it away. And then the next time someone needs one, we add it to their account. We do the same thing with webinars. We have a few webinar licenses and we'll add it to your account. And then when you're done with your webinar, we take it away. And if somebody else needs it, but some people want webinar
right.
all the time. So we'll say, okay, you're going to have to pay for your webinar license. It's going to cost your department this much.
Right.
Because it's not part of our standard license where I am. Some places have everything. They have they bought the Cadillac model of every feature Zoom has, Enterprise Plus or whatever, and we don't do that, right?
Yeah.
So where I was going was saying assigning it to one specific account. Where I see Frank is talking about that, I make sense. So basically, what you're doing then is just as the company buy one, and then what you can do is just pay for the yearly of that add-on, but just assign it to whoever needs it for that specific.
You can buy it for a month if you really want to save money.
Yeah. Again, yeah. If you're just testing it, sure. If
they don't have daily, so
Right.
The cheapest you can do for these add-ons is a month at a time.
Right.
But $7 for a month. I mean, big deal, right?
Yeah.
Especially for a lot of events, you're probably spending money on marketing or branding. You might have a technician. You might be bringing in AV equipment. $7 is nothing compared to the expense of all that, right?
Exactly. What do you think, James? Is that going to be something you're going to look into, or?
Yeah, that's possible.
Because James,
There was a question in the chat. I don't know if the person asked it's still here. They were asking about a Mac Mini with certain specifications.
yeah, Roland's question. Yeah, 1 second.
Yeah, that computer would do just fine.
Yeah. So just for everybody's sake on YouTube, will a device like this serve me well for ZoomOSC? He was looking at a 2023 model of Mac Mini M2 chip with 8 gig of RAM and 256 gig of SSD, and the answer that Frank is saying is absolutely. Yeah.
It'll work. I mean, I don't ever want a computer with 8 gigs of RAM personally. I like at least 16, if not more, but that's just me because the way Apple does a lot of their computers now is the memory is soldered to the motherboard. You can't upgrade your Mac later and say, oh, I want more RAM. You used to be able to. They don't do that anymore. So I always try to buy the most RAM, especially that I think is reasonable for the next 3 or 4 years till it's probably time to replace the machine.
Yeah. So basically, Roland, our suggestion from Frank and I is take into consideration that you might want to do more with the Mac in the future and plan for that a little more. And not saying that ZoomOSC or ZoomISO is very hardware intense, because it is very much utilizing the M infrastructure chips, and that is something that is very, very special that Andy has done from Liminal when it comes to the M1 chip, especially initially when the M1 came out. Of course, the one you're looking at is M2, and of course there's now M3s, and M4 I believe did come out within the last month, but right now I think they're only strictly on iPads, I believe.
Yeah, WWDC's next week, but it's supposed to be a software show. Sometimes they announce new hardware, but they don't have to. It's meant for developers.
Uh-oh.
What I miss?
Office.
What did you miss?
What I
The whole
missed?
show.
I just got done.
You didn't. We talked for an hour about the new Zoom Conflate feature.
Zoom Conflate?
No, there's no such thing.
I want it. I want it. Hi guys. I'm sorry to interrupt. I just want to.
No problem.
Carry on.
Welcome back.
So maybe you're the perfect person to jump in, David. We're just talking about how much of a Mac you need to use ZoomOSC, and Roland is saying a Mac with an M2 chip, which I think is just fine, but he said 8 gigs of RAM, which I paused at because I don't know how memory intensive ZoomOSC could be. Like if you had a big event, does it matter if you've got 8 or 16 gigs of RAM?
Are we talking OSC or ISO?
OSC, but speak to either one or both or whatever.
Well, no. I mean, look, I don't know anything about the back end, but OSC, all it's doing is listening to the meeting. It's not moving video. It's not moving audio. I don't think it's doing any of those things. So I run it on an M1. I think this probably has 16 gigs, but it's my laptop. But I have a million other things running at the same time. I just have it running kind of in the background, and then I control it via my Stream Deck. In fact, last week I had it running plus Tiles running all on the same computer in the same meeting. Yeah, ISO is an entirely different story because you're transporting video and audio.
Sure. Okay. Well, I think that's a fair answer. I mean, if the machine is only ever going to do ZoomOSC, maybe 8 gigs is just fine. I just find it very limiting to buy a machine with 8 gigs because I said they're soldered onto the motherboard and you can never change it. And if you ever want to do something else with that computer that might be more intensive, you might get to a point where 8 gigs of RAM isn't going to serve you well, and you're locked into that on that machine forever.
Here's what I would say. I would say that if you're, by the way, did you get it? Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I'm just bringing my my Tiles thing in because I've been playing with it, and it's
Yes, you may.
quite buggy, unfortunately for me. But I would say that if, like, I have, for example, my Tiles that I'm running is on a base model M1 Mac Mini, 8 gigs, nothing special whatsoever. And I literally just use it to run either ISO or OSC or Tiles one at a time. Right now it happens to be running Tiles. it's fine. Like if you're getting something for a kind of a, this is all I need it to do, then
Purpose built or purpose purchased.
yeah, right. Then 8 gigs is I think more than enough. The truth of the matter with these M machines is that they're so much more powerful than most of us even need, you know.
If you're a corporation, I mean, or a business, and you can dedicate a computer to one task all the time, then it's a lot. Like it's a good machine. But if you ever think you might want to use that computer for other things, that's why I'm saying I'm not a fan of 8 gigs of RAM.
Right. And of course, the big situation now is a lot of Windows people are asking us, David, because of what I did post yesterday in Discord about ZoomOSC disappearing on Windows.
Yeah. I was a little surprised at that.
A lot of us are. A lot of us that are in the Zoom Test Kitchen community, I have been hearing from a lot of our people in Discord regarding that. So it makes sense why Andy is doing it, because it is based on the SDK, which means that if they did go to the next version of the SDK, of course, they would have to upgrade the Windows version as well. So
I think Mac Minis are great value for money. You've probably got keyboards lying around. You've probably got mice lying around. You've probably got computer screens lying around. Mac Minis are very powerful little machines, and I think they're good value for money, and you can do a lot with them. And it's the lowest price barrier to enter into the Mac world if you want to dip your toes in and you're not certain about whether or not you want to use a Mac. You probably get a used one for a few $300 something, and you've got a really good little machine, and you can use the screen you already have and all the other things I listed and get going.
I wonder if you're a Windows person, how much of a leap it is. I don't know. I haven't been a Windows person for decades. How much of a leap it is to come over to Mac and use.
I think it's how you approach it. If you approach it with an open mind, then you're probably going to have a good time. If you approach it like, I want it to be just like Windows, there's ways you can make a Mac work a lot more like Windows. But I mean, then why are you getting a Mac? Like, try to embrace it. I mean, it's not that different. I mean, you click on things, you type on things. I mean, I don't know. I have to use Windows at work sometimes. I don't love it, but I can get by.
Yeah, David, you actually miss Jonas. He was here.
I actually saw that. I popped in for 1 second.
Were you? Oh, okay.
I saw him here. Yeah.
Yeah. So the big things that we also talked about earlier today, Australian time, was that the ATEM came up with a new firmware version for.
Yeah. Is that an SRT thing? Is that what that was about?
SRT plus a lot of other functionality that Jonas actually demoed, because he actually had 9.5 on his ATEM Extreme ISO that he had. So if you have your ATEM, so again, it doesn't work. It basically has to have the encoder chips in the ATEMs. So we're talking the Pro models, the ISO models. We're not talking the base level ATEM Mini or the base level ATEM SDI. So it's all, as long as it has those in it, then you're fine. Go ahead, David, talk, and then you'll be showing everybody on YouTube.
No, it's all right. I'm just, again, troubleshooting tiles. Yeah, I have just the very, very basic.
So you don't have Pro?
No.
Oh, okay.
But the truth is, I don't even need this. I mean, I bought it because everyone else had one, and
Hey, there was an eCam question. Maybe David will know the answer to. Do you remember what the question was?
I think it was related to the Zoom integration was so well done now.
Yeah, the team is coming on next week, by the way.
Oh, so whoever asked that question, come back next week.
And we'll have, and actually we're having, some of you may have seen, they were on Office. They've been doing the rounds and stuff.
The circuit.
Yeah. So we'll have, Andy will be here next week, and we're going to have at least one of the two developers of eCam. I didn't want just the marketing. Although I love the marketing folks, I wanted for us to be
That's
able to
great.
kind of ask some questions. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I don't know. It depends on the person, obviously, but lots of times when I have meetings with marketing people and you ask them super technical questions, I'll have to ask an engineer and get back to you. It's so much, sometimes
Yeah.
it's much better to talk to someone who's actually more technical than a
Absolutely.
salesperson.
Absolutely.
But some of them are actually super on it and they know everything too.
Yep. Did you talk at all about, was it you,
Oh,
Frank?
your thumbnail? I did try to explain it to everybody, but please do explain
No,
it to
wait, but Frank, wasn't that your article that you
Yeah,
posted?
we discussed it.
Yeah.
I love that article. but
Digital
can I-
twins.
Yeah. So I just want, here's my 2 cents. I've been thinking about this all week, ever since I saw that article. And Andy actually said this on Office Hours, I think. At one point, he was quoting the raison d'etre, the mission of Zoom, right? Is to, what is it? To make everyone able to communicate, yada yada, whatever. And yet here is the CEO of Zoom talking about disengaging people from the very thing that Zoom is supposed to have us do, help us do, meet and connect. So now I'm not even going to be in the Zoom meeting. I'm going to have a doppelganger there.
Digital proxy.
It just seems entirely antithetical to what Zoom has been all about. I was really, really surprised to see that from him.
Somebody was going to do it.
Well, I mean, we kind of already have it, don't we? I mean, people have been since 2020. People have been, putting a looped video of them going like this.
Oh yeah, but people are also sending bots to meetings and scraping the meeting
Right.
and then reading the summary later. I guess what he's saying is down the road, you may be able to program your digital twin to actually answer questions or agree to things based on parameters you've
Which
pre-established.
again, it just seems crazy.
So one illustration of this I made earlier was this already happens a lot every day. Like the stock market algorithms, there's not a person always buying things. There's predetermined algorithms that have rules that say when it gets to this point, sell or buy or do whatever.
Right.
And microtransactions that happen thousands of times a second, like it happens a lot already. It's just it's always been the purview of companies, not individuals, right?
There's a pizza place. What pizza place was it? Was it pizza? I know one of them that I just heard they were talking about. Oh, I heard this on Colbert. I heard this on Stephen Colbert that they're using AI to start making your order before you finish your order. Because
they can predict what you're going to have.
Right. They're using AI to predict what the rest of your order is going to be. And so
my philosophical question was, okay, let's say in 5 years you can send a digital twin of yourself and it's smart enough to know what you would agree to or not agree to. Would that be to free humanity from the chore of working, or would it be to give us more work to do? Now you have more capacity, so we're going to give you more things to do.
Right. I just, again, the whole point of this is to help people connect. Oh God, don't spotlight me. The whole point of this is to help people connect.
You could argue it's another way of connecting. You could be in 17 meetings at the same time.
But you're not.
But your proxy is, and you program it to act and behave the way you would act and behave, and then you get the summaries.
It's funny. I remember distinctly during the first year of us using these tools, really fighting against the word virtual meetings. Because I said, there's nothing virtual means not real. And there's nothing virtual about this. This is as real as it gets. I kept saying that. So again, this just feels to me like, well, here now, we're making it more virtual. It's not going to be really me.
I wonder what people who are born this year will say about this topic. Looking back,
You're right.
they'll think we were Luddites or something.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It seems that a lot of people are changing the definitions of everything right now.
Mhm. Yeah.
But I also think you could get to a point where, you know, how there's inequity in all things in life. People who have money and power will probably get AIs that are better than people who don't have money and power. So you're at a disadvantage in a meeting if someone's got the super AI and you've got the regular AI. You could end up on the wrong side of contracts or negotiations or other situations because your AI is not. You know, when you're playing a video game online and someone's got every weapon or something or every ability, and you're a beginner and you get trounced by them because you've just started. Now take that into into your virtual twin, going out and representing you in the world, getting squashed by people with better virtual twins. It's very dystopian. It could be, anyways.
Yeah.
But maybe it'll free humanity from the chore of working. Like, who knows where it'll go, right?
I don't want to be freed from that. That's the thing. There's joy in this.
Tell that to retired people.
Well, yeah.
I'm planning on working as long as I physically and mentally can.
Some people love working. Some
I
people
agree
want to
with
use
you.
their time for other things.
Of course. Of course.
Play the guitar all day long and have your virtual digital twin go to the meetings so you can stay outside and sit on the beach and play guitar.
Yeah. And David's got a couple of choices behind him.
No, I posted that because I thought it was an interesting thought experiment.
Oh, I
Yeah.
agree. I thought it was really interesting.
I actually saw the thumbnail first before I was like, oh, what did David find now? So I had to go figure out what this was all about.
Very interesting.
Did you ever see the movie Her? Where he falls in love with a digital AI?
And she kind of falls in love with him.
That's
It's a
been
pre-
in many sci-fi
Oh, of course.
TV shows or films.
And I'm sure we're still a long way away from digital twins that are effective, but I mean, we're at the beginning of all of this, right?
Mhm.
You know, I mean, AI has been around since the 50s, you know, in some respects. It's just, it wasn't called that. It was called machine learning. And then there are other versions of that, you know.
I mean, if you take what Apple has done, some would argue not so well, in the Vision Pro and the avatar that it, or I don't know if they call it an avatar, but the thing that it creates, right, of you in meetings. So the person isn't actually seeing you, they're seeing this avatar of you. If you merge that with AI that is able to know enough about you to animate that avatar appropriately.
Max headroom.
Right. I mean, we're really not that far away at all.
But I've also been hearing things for most of my life about things like, you know, this version of AI or whatever is 5 years away from being able to do great things. And then 5 years comes around. Oh, we're just 5 years away. It's always 5 more years away.
Right. Yeah. All right, friends. I have to pop back out. I want to say hello and thank you, thank you, thank you. I hope you have a lovely weekend.
Yeah, you too.
I will.
I look forward to next week's
care.
show.
Yeah, it should be good. Should be
All
good.
right, I'm going to bail. Everyone have a great weekend.
See you, Frank.
See you later.
Take care.
Bye. All right. So on that note, since a lot of our panelists are officially leaving me, I will say goodbye to the YouTube audience. And I will officially spotlight myself and then we can go to the dining room. All right. Actually, what I'll do is I'll just hold on, Pete, and I'll be right back. And we'll put an ending to this and see you next week in same time, same station, 3 p.m. 3 p.m. Eastern. And as David mentioned to us, Ecamm will be here next week. So Andy and people from Ecamm will be here next week. So take care